Okay. Got some good guesses. None of them correct, unfortunately.
I know it.
Do you know it?
I know it.
I've already got it done.
Was this more in our semester, the science
Yeah.
semester?
Don't use them.
Because I think
Okay.
I threw all my notes away.
Okay. Maddie, what do you think?
You have to write out the equation, so you have to do 4 times negative, or 4, never mind.
Okay. Let me help you out because it looks like we're a little stuck. A negative exponent.
Reciprocal.
The reciprocal, that's exactly right. Okay, a negative exponent turns something into the reciprocal. So what this really is it's like 1 over 4 to the power of 3. Okay, so the negative just means to take the 4 to the third and put it on the bottom. That's what makes it negative. Okay, so it doesn't make any numbers negative. Your answer is not negative. And then 4 to the third power off your calculator is 64, so your final answer would be 1 over 64. Okay? Now I want to show you something. On your calculator, you could type in 4 to the power of negative 3. Oh, and actually on this calculator, your calculators, the yellow ones, you probably wouldn't have to do this, but on these ones where it shows the caret key like that, you do have to put the negative in parentheses. It's going to give you a crazy decimal, but then how could we turn that into a fraction? Do you remember?
Second.
Okay, math. The math button over here on the left, and then the first option is fraction. And then hit enter again, 1 over 64. So in an exam situation, if you couldn't remember that's what the negative exponent does, type it into your calculator like that, and then just turn it into a fraction, get your answer. Good? Okay. So 5 minus x to the power of negative 2 for x equals negative 1. Well, let's write out what this is really going to say. I would write 5 minus negative 1 to the power of negative 2. Now, how else could I write 5 minus negative 1? Not even plus a negative, just plus. Minus a negative is the same as plus. So this is really saying 5 plus 1 to the power of negative 2. So that's like 6 to the negative 2. And then looking at what we did a second ago, what would I do? Okay, so 1 over 6 squared. 6 squared is 36, so my answer would be 1 over 36. Okay? Let's see if we could do that on our calculator. I could probably type that whole thing in our calculator. So in parentheses, 5 minus negative 1 to the power of negative 2. I get a decimal, and then I'm going to hit math, fraction, enter. Yep, 1 over 36. So that could go straight into your calculator if you weren't sure how to work with that. Good there? Okay. Next one says 5b to the negative 8. Am I reading that right? Okay. Situations like this are tricky because this negative 8 is only attached to that b. So what did we say a negative exponent's going to do again? Make it a reciprocal. It's going to make that b go down to the bottom, but the 5 is going to stay on the top. So this would become 5 over b, and then once I move the b to the bottom, it's not negative anymore. It would just be positive. So it would be 5 over b to the 8. But be careful that you don't put the 5 on the bottom also, because that negative 8 is only attached to the b. Are you good there? That is your answer because it's just telling you to simplify. It's not like the last one where they gave me a number to put in for b.
So why don't you have a negative?
Well, the negative exponent just tells the b to go down on the bottom. It doesn't make the number negative. Okay? And that's a really big takeaway. Negative exponents never turn your number negative. Okay? They never make anything negative. That negative is just telling you put this on the bottom. Okay? Does that make sense? This is stuff I wasn't here to teach you, so I hope that I'm filling in any gaps that you feel like you have. Okay, but feel free to stop me and ask questions. I want to do a quick side example. You can actually just turn your paper sideways because I know that you're going to see something like this when you go to do the pink packet tonight. Let's say I gave you 6x to the power of 0
Anything besides 0,
is what?
0.
Close, not 0. 1. But x to the power of 0 is 1, but I still have the 6 there, right? So really what this is saying is 6 times 1, because the x to the 0 becomes a 1, but the 6 is still there. So your answer would just be what? 6. Okay? So be careful on that, because if you happen to see a question like this in the near future, like, I don't know, sometime in the next 2 weeks, where it would be on a big multiple choice test, I know there's a problem similar to this, but one of your options is just 1. You have to remember that it doesn't turn the whole thing into 1, it just turns this piece into 1. Good there? Okay. So now we're jumping all the way down to number 7. In case you haven't caught on to this, you're just doing the circled problems. Okay?
I figured that out yesterday when I
Sorry. Okay, 7. Simplify. There is a trick for remembering how to do this. Did I? Oh, there it is. My document camera's freezing. And probably Miss Niebuhr didn't show you this because it's a trick that my crazy algebra teacher made up, so I don't know that really anybody else knows about it. But let me show it to you real quick, because I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get to teach you this stuff. That's a P, the letter P. This is P-Man. He's a superhero. That's supposed to be a cape, guys. Come on, use your imagination. This is P-Man. And P-Man helps you with all of your exponent problems. Okay? And here's what he says. If you're raising a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. Okay? So like if you're doing x to the third to the power of 5, like a power to a power, you multiply and make it x to the 15th. If you're multiplying two exponents together, or two powers together, what do you think you do with the exponents? Add. So if you're doing x to the third times x to the 5th, that would become x to the 8th. And if you're adding two powers together, you do nothing, because they're not like terms. So if I were to try to do x to the third plus x to the 5th, I'm not allowed to do anything because I can't combine those two, so this would just stay x to the third plus x to the 5th. Okay? So now, thinking about that, if I'm doing y to the 7th times y to the 3rd, what do I do with those exponents? You add them. Yep, when you're multiplying powers, you add them together. So this would be y to the 10th. Okay, the other way you could think about this is y to the 7th is like 7 y's multiplied together. And then y to the 3rd is like 3 y's multiplied together. So total, how many y's do I have? 10. So y to the 10th, because there's 10 y's to multiply. Okay. All right, using P-Man, how would I do the next one then? Multiply. Yeah, 20 times 4 is 80. So this would be x to the 80th. Okay. And I'm not going to write out x to the 20th 4 times. That's too many x's. But we good there? Okay. So now let's look at number 9. Our P-Man rule is going to work here. But because this is in parentheses, that 5th power needs to apply to the 2 also. And it's not a multiplication problem. This is like I was writing 2 to the 5th and a to the 3rd to the 5th. See, I'm raising both of these to the 5th power, kind of like the distributive property. What is 2 to the 5th power? Not 10. 32. Trevor, how'd you get that? Okay, 2 to the 5th power in your calculator. What does that mean when you do 2 to the 5th power? Yeah, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 5 times. So 2 to the 5th is 32. And then how do I deal with this? A to the 3rd to the 5th.
You have to multiply this with parentheses.
Good. So that would be a to the 15th. So final answer 32a to the 15th.
So the A to the,
Question? Good? Okay, if we look at number 11, what does this mean in here? It's division. What did you say, Trevor? Subtract, yeah. Now, P-Man doesn't handle that. P-Man doesn't have subtraction, okay? But if multiplication means you add, then wouldn't it make sense that division would make you subtract? Okay? If in multiplication you add, division you'll subtract. So here, a to the 16th over a to the 4th, you would do 16 minus 4 and get 12. So this would be a to the 12th. Okay. A quick visual for that, I'm going to try to write this really quick, but a to the 16th would be like 16 a's. It's hard to write a's so many times in a row. Okay, so there's 16 a's. A to the 4th is 4 a's. And so what's going to happen when you have a's on top and bottom? Yeah, so really what this means is 4 a's are going to cancel, and then you just want to know how many a's you would have left over. And if you took out 4, wouldn't it make sense there'd be 12 left?
I think that's the way that we did it.
Probably.
Wrote it all out.
Yeah. Yep. You don't have to write it out every time, but if you're not sure what to do, it wouldn't hurt. Okay? Okay. 4y to the 6th over x cubed, and then we want to square it. Now, first of all, the first thing I would check is inside the parentheses, can I simplify anything? Can I subtract these exponents?
No,
The 6 and the 3, why not?
they don't have like.
They're not the same terms. One's a y, one's an x. Okay, so those kind of have to stay. But I want to square the 4, and I want to square the y to the 6th, and I want to square the x to the 3rd. So what's 4 squared? Not 8. 16. What happens if I take y to the 6th and square it?
It's y to the 3.
If you're raising a power to a power, you multiply. Yep. So this would be y to the 12th. And then x to the 3rd squared would be x to the 6th. Yep. So when you raise a power to a power, you multiply. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, number 13. Now, if I take a fraction, this is probably one of the more complicated ones you're going to see. If I take a fraction and raise it to a negative, what's that going to do to it?
Make it a negative and then
Okay, doesn't make anything negative.
Wait, we just like flip it so it's
Yeah. Negative exponents just change where things are located. It doesn't make anything negative. But this is going to change where the 2 is. It's going to put the 2 on the bottom. And it's going to change where the b is. It's going to put the b on the top. So really what it's going to do is take that fraction and do what to it? Flip it. Yeah. So let's rewrite this over here. Upside down. So it'll be b to the 5th over 2. And we still have an exponent out here, but it's not negative anymore because the negative we already took care of. The negative made us flip over. Now what happens when I do b to the 5th to the power of 3? Yep, so it'll be b to the 15th. What's 2 to the power of 3? Nope. 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. If you're not sure about that, please use your calculator. I'm totally okay with you using a calculator. Are you good on everything we did here? Okay, like scale of 1 to 5. If this were your exam right here, how would you do?